But
yeah, I was waiting for things to settle down here, and luckily that happened a little earlier, so I figured let's bang this out a little earlier just to get you some sleep too.
live a little early, but I don't think you guys are going to care. I don't think this is going to be a very long stream. It's just me and my good friend. She-Hulk episode 3. I don't know. It's some good, some bad. It's middling a bit for me. We're kind of in the original, the first third of this whole thing. But I'm not. I turn all my electronics down because I forgot they were turned up, so you guys aren't hearing me in my own background. Yeah, I mean, an interesting episode. I mean, again, finally, some things are starting to play out.
Yeah,
and there's still a lot going on, a lot we still have yet to touch on, but it's a pretty wild thing so far. Anyway, here to talk with me about all things episode 3 for She-Hulk is Connor from the Horn and Goat. What's up with you, brother?
What up, my good friend? How are you this fine evening? Rocking that blue polo shirt as you always do, looking so snazzy.
Well, I mean, you were talking about Eye Candy a minute ago. I mean, let's face it. I mean,
I know. Listen. I gotta keep remembering your eyes are up there, Frank. I gotta.
Eyes are up here.
I gotta. Yeah.
But again, first episode for me, not fantastic, but I understood there was a lot of setup. Second episode, I really, really liked. This episode for me kind of fledged a little bit again, and it's got me a little bit concerned. There were some really big highs, but the lows were noticeable. Let me first break down kind of what happened in this episode. The basic plot of this particular episode is that Jennifer Walters, she does confront her client, Emil Blonsky, also known as the Abomination, about escaping prison and fighting in an underground fight club. That is what we saw from Blonsky in Shang-Chi.
Yep.
And obviously the clip that she sees at the end of the second episode is that event. Blonsky explains that he was removed from his cell by Sorcerer Supreme Wong, and that he returned to prison willingly afterwards. While Walters attempts to contact Wong, the news of her appointment as Blonsky's lawyer stirs up public controversy. Walters' former colleague, Dennis Bukowski, approaches the Superhuman Law Division for a case involving his ex-girlfriend, Runa, a shape-shifting light elf from New Asgard, who defrauded him by impersonating Megan Thee Stallion. That was one of the funnier parts of this episode, I gotta say.
Oh, without a doubt.
The case is assigned to Walters' co-worker, Augustus Puglisi. Wong meets with Walters and does agree to testify at Blonsky's parole hearing. During the hearing, Wong and several other witnesses make their statements while Blonsky demonstrates his ability to remain in control of himself as the Abomination. Walters then later helps Pug to win his case, and Blonsky is eventually released on parole, but with the caveat, he is forbidden from transforming into the Abomination ever again. And it is also said that he is supposed to wear one of the inhibitors that we saw early on in episode 1 that Bruce was wearing to keep himself from being Smart Hulk.
Right.
A little bit of a plot hole there. We'll talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
As She-Hulk, Walters gives a televised interview to tell her story. She finally gives into that whole thing. And later, while on her way home at the end of the episode, Walters is attacked by 4 men armed with Asgardian construction equipment that were hired by persons we do not know, an anonymous client, who attempt to steal a sample of her blood. But she does fight them off. Now, again, a whole lot of things about this episode, some good, some bad. I'll go to you first, Connor. I mean, what are some of your general thoughts about this episode?
So this to me this is what I expected the tone of the show to be. If you were to try to describe the show to somebody, or like what I thought the show would be like, this almost is the prototypical, stereotypical, like this is exactly what this show is probably going to be. The there's a little bit of continuity, there's Easter eggs, it's obviously meta as hell, self-referential, she's breaking the fourth wall. This felt like the very stereotypical, like basically like a sitcom, for lack of a better word, and a backloaded phrase. And that to me is both good and bad. On one hand, I will say this. The first thing I'll say right off the bat, the light elf thing with the impersonation, probably not like, it wasn't anything too crazy or too like I was like cheering for it, but it got me to chuckle. I'm not gonna sit here and say I didn't enjoy that part. Just kind of a side story, just for whatever reason. Yeah, it kind of felt like this is one of those like, let's stretch shit out episodes. Like let's just like see how long we can stretch this out for, because really, except for like Emil Blonsky and like, her accepting herself as She-Hulk, I guess, which I don't even really got that takeaway from it, really. That's really the only big highlight of this. There's a ton of setup and other Easter eggs for other shit.
Oh yeah.
But really, it was, as far as like the narrative, it just felt like kind of like what she jokingly referred to in the first episode. She's like, I don't want you to think this is like a cameo of the week thing, because it's not like there's every cameo every week except for Bruce and Emil and Wong. Just remember whose show this is about. Like, I love that line for so many reasons, especially watching the episode afterwards, because that's kind of what it felt like, which I didn't mind, because like I said, this episode kind of felt like exactly what I expected the entire show to be like. But at the same time, it's just, yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of like, I'm split a little bit.
Yeah, first off, the funny was definitely there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The comedy hits in this episode. I mean, the whole little sub-story through this episode about her former coworker, the assistant DA, who got swindled by the shape-shifting white elf from Asgard. That was hilarious. I mean, for one, it was just generally funny. For two, he deserves every damn bit of it because he's a prick. He's kind he's kind of a slug. But some of this, again, some of the social justice stuff got a little thick again in this episode, and I'm willing to forgive some of it, because A, it's kind of what Disney does, but B, it's like, when you make it part of the character, it seems so much more seamless. It seems like they're reaching for it in spots here and there. Oh yeah, and I feel like, and it's one of those things that kind of takes me out of it, because like we'll get on a good roll, like because she has some really good dialogue over the course of this episode, but it kind of gets run over by them constantly trying to work in these kind of like girl power angles for her particular character, and she doesn't need it. She's a Hulk, for crying out loud. And before she's even a Hulk, she's she's not just attractive, she's also stupid smart. She is a lawyer, for crying out loud. She is a lawyer for this gigantic law firm that is very important in the universe. It's like she's not a schlub. She's a very smart, capable person. So, and part of the reason, I mean, I know they play off part of that because they try to play this She-Hulk versus Jennifer Walters thing, this dichotomy of being both at the same time and in the same body, and I get that, but like sometimes it's like, just focus on the character, let the character drive the story, and or let the character be a part of driving the story, and stop trying to force some of this other crap in there. It's just, this episode again, kind of like in spots in the first episode, it got a little too thick for me sometimes. I was kind of like, really, if you're running half-hour episodes for 9 episodes, that's fine. But you've only got 9 episodes, and there's a lot you have to tell me about this character that a lot of people don't really know. Yeah, people know She-Hulk, but they don't know her as well as they know a lot of other Marvel characters right now. So you've got to really introduce her to this world, especially if there are plans, like I've heard, to make her a part of the larger cinematic stuff, because Mark Ruffalo has come out and said they have plans for her in the movies. Maybe not her own movie, but she will be around for we got Secret Wars coming up. We have the Kang stuff coming up. Maybe she's going to be around for that long term.
Thunderbolts. I mean, there's a lot of. I completely agree with what you're saying as far as they do, like this is an opportunity. You're not going to have too many opportunities to really flesh out her character, for God's sakes. I mean, let's with all due respect, I don't think there's going to be a She-Hulk season 2. I don't think there is. I think this is just going to be a part of the core. I mean, there could be after the multiversal saga shit, but I don't think there's going to be a She-Hulk season 2. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just that it is what it is. A lot of these shows are not designed to have multiple seasons. In fact, we're only getting 2 shows that we've been introduced so far that are getting 2 seasons for bigger picture reasons. And so these individual Disney Plus shows, their purpose should be to introduce and let these characters get fleshed out. Miss Marvel did a fantastic job with that. Oh yeah, Moon Knight, etc. So so you got to like hit while the iron's hot. Now I kind of feel the same way, where it's like I'm teeter tottering, because it's like, okay, it's 9 episodes versus the 6, like you said. So there is more of a chance that there's going to be some like fluff and filler and some other things. But yeah, it does. As far as her character itself right now, it definitely took a back seat in this episode. At least I'm hoping next one it's going to be a little bit more, especially considering we saw in the trailer that she. Spoilers. There's a potential that she's going to be going to see Emil Blonsky and doing like some of that like therapy that he was mentioning before. So maybe that's the opportunity there. But yeah, I'm a little about it too. But ton of Easter eggs, and I mean, Frank fucking Wong saved this episode. God damn it, Wong! How could you not love Wong?
In so many ways that he saved this episode. Without Wong, I might have walked away from this episode like, I don't know if this series is really going to get there for me at all. but I mean, thinking ahead though, I mean, look, we have whatever appearance of almost a Deadpool of Daredevil that we're going to get. We saw him in the trailer right before the series started, so he's going to be coming in eventually. We still haven't seen Titania outside the first episode when she busts in the courtroom, and so this is one of the things that's got me really wondering. Is the last several episodes of this going to be a sprint? Because there's still so much that we know is coming. Daredevil, Titania.
I heard the next episode's going to turn a corner from what I've heard.
Because already kind of burned 2 of the first 3 on. I mean, first episode set up, I get it. Second episode, very good. This episode, you didn't really give me anything that pushes this particular story for this season forward in this episode. I mean, the whole thing with her former coworker was funny, but it was a subplot.
Right.
The thing with Blonsky, I mean, obviously that's going to go somewhere, but there was like nothing, there wasn't really anything else of great substance in this episode, with the exception of a little bit of character growth by her, like the idea of her taking the interview. I thought was a big step for her character, and I got that. But other than that, I mean, the rest of this episode was kind of, like I said, it didn't quite get there for me.
No, I definitely can see what you're talking about 100%. I think that, like, so first off, I've heard, because a couple of people did get critics and reviewers got a chance to watch the first 4 episodes before everybody else, and they said that the 4th episode is really where it's like, okay, it's gonna go this way now. So I'm kind of like, let's hold on to the side of this car and ride this roller coaster and get to 4 and see where it goes from there. As soon as once I saw the plot with Emil Blonsky from the 2nd episode, I knew it was going to be a very quick arc with him anyway, and his character. So I didn't expect that to drag out the whole season once I saw him last week. But you're right. There's still a good amount of stuff. We still have to, I'll be honest. I'm very, very curious about Daredevil, not just in terms of his relationship with Jen Walters and his, but I think this is going to really like open the door as far as where his role in the MCU is going to be. So there's that. And I think that that's maybe where we'll see the concept of her like balancing the life as the attorney plus the quote unquote superhero. But yeah, Wong for me was a big Wong was just fantastic. I mean, goddamn, I don't think there has ever been anything that he has been in a movie or a thing in MCU that I have not enjoyed. Just love it. Between him and Luis from the Ant-Man movies, it's like that. Yes, give me like a buddy cop series. It doesn't have to be 15, 20 episodes. Give me like a fun 3 episode, 45-minute each of those two getting together, just doing something off the wall. It doesn't have to mean anything to the larger MCU. Let's just have some fun with these two guys. With Jimmy Woo. Yep. and maybe Darcy. And maybe Darcy. Throw Darcy in there because she has great comic relief too. Just like all of it, something comes together with all those to it. Whatever. I think that if I'm going to say anything about this, as far as it, on a positive note, I think the ending with it's the Wrecking Crew or presumably the MCU's version of Wrecking Crew. I think that is the setup to the larger dilemma that she's going to face in this season, as far as like someone's going after her blood. I think that's going to be Valentina. I think that's going to be Elaine from the Thunderbolts. I think that's who that's going to be. I don't know about that. That's a guess. I'm shooting in the dark here. Because going after the blood of a Hulk is something that's been kind of a reoccurring thing over the course of the MCU Hulk. I mean, because going back to the Edward Norton, the Incredible Hulk. I mean, even him,
it's like he was very concerned about, like, what's in my blood? Is this something that can be replicated? That kind of thing. He's worried about everybody becoming a Hulk and everybody going to war. And I don't know, maybe that's something that leads to World War Hulk. Who the hell knows?
It could be the leader too.
It could be.
Yeah. There's a couple of possibilities.
We did get Blonsky back, and that's the one other character that people are like, okay, if you're going back to the well to get Blonsky to deal with that character, I want to see what happened with the leader with Dr. Stern. That's something that I really want to see.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that especially with the announcement of Cap 4 called New World Order, he is part of a group called that, so that could be the door opening for him to return. I would love to see that. I think that'd be very, very intriguing, and it would make sense too because he has Hulk's blood. He still has that vial of Hulk's blood, but Jennifer Walters obviously is a very different reaction to the to the gamma effects or Hulk's blood in this case, or whatever you want to call it. So he might be looking for that, like, oh, okay, well, I have now this person. I want their blood to see what other effects or things I could alter into my transformation or whatever have you. But I did giggle. It's like, did you guys steal that from an Asgardian construction crew? Yeah, like
yeah.
The humor was there for me. I did a lot of it was somewhat stereotypical Marvel, but I fucking chuckled. I don't give a shit. Yeah, it was very just par for the course. Nothing too outrageous or outlandish for me. Still enjoyed it. Just kind of very mediocre. I'm not hating on the episode. It did kind of like you said, kind of like dip in certain parts, but I still, I'm still holding on. I'm still holding on. Let's see how far this train can go.
Well, if you're right and this thing does turn the corner in the next episode and it really hits its stride and moves forward, that's really what this needs. Because if I get another episode in episode 4 that middles along like it felt like this one did, I'm going to be really, really worried for the rest of the series. Because
don't blame you.
Yeah, because you've got to get to it, man. Look, 9 episodes is short. I mean, it's only a half hour, so you're only looking at 4 hours or something like that of actual screen time. I mean, if you were going to, that little time, you may as well just made a damn movie. But that's just my way of seeing it. If there were a couple of Easter eggs, I don't know if you caught it or not. When the newscasters are out in front for Blonsky's parole hearing, we're saying all these crazy things. And one of honestly, I love that it was kind of indicative of kind of the way the media works in real life. They hear one thing on the street and then they immediately run to a camera and just blow it up into something and they have no idea what it actually is.
Yep.
So one of those things was the rumor that Jen got her powers from a mafia hit. That's actually a reference to the character's Marvel Comics origin story.
Yep, I did catch that.
She actually was shot, and the blood transfusion in the comics, she was shot. The blood transfusion for Bruce that he knew needed to save her life, he did it, and that's how she became She-Hulk in the comics. So it wasn't the accident like it's been portrayed. I actually kind of like the accident better. I think it plays better on screen, and she doesn't have any connection to Mafia right now anyway, so at least not at this point in her existence, the MCU. But I thought that was a fun little thing, and like I said, it's like somebody was like, "Hey Jen, did you get turned down from the Avengers?" And then the one girl automatically hears it, turns around to her camera, and goes, "And this just in, she got turned down from the Avengers."
Yeah,
are you?
I love that, man. I love that, man. Especially from obviously my past in terms of doing the wrestling coverage and stuff. And the media is no different, in terms of you take one little spark. I mean, hell. There's a bunch of shit in any media or entertainment source where it's like they hear a rumor and it just fucking catches on like wildfire. So I love that. What I also loved was the Marvel being very self-aware as far as the online reaction to the She-Hulk series itself.
I actually really like that.
I know. I was just saying it was fucking genius. And so for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, in the episode, she starts trending and she starts getting they see the news reports doing this and they're calling her She-Hulk, and they cut to essentially it's like TikTok. It's like TikTok and Instagram comments about She-Hulk, in the MCU, but they're almost note for note adaptations of if you read the comment section from the Instagram post from Marvel when they announced the show in the first place. I'm like, that is fucking great. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought that was a great way to handle all that. I thought that was brilliant. It's lean into it. Sometimes that's the best you can do. Yeah, I thought that was brilliant stuff. I really liked it.
So there are pockets in this episode that I definitely enjoyed. I didn't hate it whatsoever. It did feel very okay, let's get this party started. Let's go. I mean, there was enough for me to still enjoy it, but I get where you're coming from in the sense of if this is going to keep going like this, We'll have to see we'll have to see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Also, Megan Thee Stallion she's got more than a cameo, but not quite an important role. Now, I'm not a big Megan Thee Stallion fan, to be perfectly honest, but I actually did really enjoy kind of the humor that she brought.
That was fun.
To this episode. It was fun. It was goofy. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously. I thought it worked really, really well. And she's obviously not the first celebrity to appear as themselves in the MCU. You know, the late great Joan Rivers was in Iron Man 3. David Hasselhoff popped up in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
And Elon Musk and DJ AM were in Iron Man 2, so
yep. But that's what I mean is that to me this episode encased, and I mean that in a positive way, what I thought that the show would be like, and it seemed like it knows what it is. It's not trying to be something it's not, and it's a fun ride.
It's a 90s dramedy.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't. Yeah, and so far I'm enjoying it because I feel like sometimes in the MCU, movies try to be either something they're not, or they try to be more than they need to be, and it usually doesn't work. And this works. It's so far it's working for me. Like I said, episode overall, man, but the concept I'm enjoying.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm really hoping this fourth episode is good because I want it to be. Also, that stuff in the courtroom. Thor's inspirational speeches are not admissible in court.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Shit like that was like, I love those little lines like that. Those were great. And it's like, oh, and 60 days for impersonating a judge. He's like, that was such a great case for us.
Yeah, but yeah, that whole thing I thought was really fun. She's basically playing a different the female version of Loki. That's the kind of shit that Loki would have done.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like there was something else I was going to mention too. Oh, it's funny. I know we talked about this in the last episode, but just something really to briefly touch on, and I didn't think of it until after the fact. We were saying how like, oh well, obviously this takes place during Shang-Chi, and that can't be the case because in Shang-Chi at the end credit scene, Bruce was still in the sling, and he's not in the sling anymore. So this takes place well afterwards.
Well, I don't know exactly how the time works out. Obviously, in that moment it takes place, but how much time in Shang-Chi passes compared to the way time is passing in She-Hulk? That's the variable that I don't know.
Right. I mean, we don't know we don't know the time frame in terms of that. So, I mean, granted, at this point, it's not like time is a huge. Everything's roughly happening at the same time anyway, as far as most of these stories and shows. So it's not like everything's too crazy. So
I'm sure there's probably a website out there somewhere that is trying to piece the shit together.
Well, there's a rumor that like Kevin Feige hired someone specifically to oversee the timeline and character positions for the entire saga, supposedly. Which, I mean, you fucking got to at this point.
Yeah,
I'm having trouble keeping track. So I mean, if the fans are, you need somebody to keep track of this stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. Joe Compton popping in to say hi. What's going on? Don't die on me. What's going on? Glad you guys could pop in for a little bit. We're already kind of getting to the end of the wrap up, but there was a couple more. There's one more thing another thing I wanted to bring up.
Yeah,
is the post credit scene was funny. I mean, it wasn't significant, but it was funny. I'll get to that in just a second. Mm-hmm. But the title cards, the courtroom drawings that play through the closing credits. One of them is interesting to me because usually in every episode, at least one of those courtroom drawings that they use as a background kind of alludes to something that is coming. Like we saw it at first, like with the drawing of her at the family dinner that actually happened in the next episode. And then I forget what it was in the second episode, but this one had a really interesting one that I thought that kind of caught my eye. When the drawing comes up of Blonsky in the bus, it says release bus or whatever. He's kind of like just saluting his little harem of women, and it looks like they're kind of crying or upset, and he's leaving them. So I'm wondering if maybe this wasn't part of a plan for Blonsky. I wonder what it's something that something that sat on my head as I was watching, because I actually watched again right before we went live, and I was kind of looking at it, and I was like, I wonder what that means, because I would assume that if he gets out on parole, that he, jumps in the VW bus with his harem of flower childs, and runs off to his little, ayahuasca retreat that he's building or whatever the hell he's got going on, and they would leave together. The idea of him leaving without them, to me, is interesting. I wonder why that is.
That is actually very interesting because, okay, we have to. I think it's safe to assume he's going to be in the Thunderbolts, right? I think that's I mean, it's not confirmed, but I think it's a safe bet because why else would you realistically introduce this character if you weren't going to put him into that put him in there? You know what I mean? Like, you know, unfortunately, not sure what they're going to do with Thaddeus Ross because obviously the actor passed away, but I think that he would be obviously a great fit for the Thunderbolts, no questions asked. Emil is not an idiot. He's not dumb. We you know, we obviously do the roundtable on the Horny Goat channel, and rewatching the Incredible Hulk movie made me realize or remember that like Blonsky is no fool. He is not dumb.
Yeah.
He is, and I feel like the series is purposely portraying him almost in that sense. He's peaceful, he's remorseful, but you kind of don't think of like, you know, could this be really an act? Yes, he has control of the Abomination character, but that's actually an interesting part because and I'm just spewing out here, so this is just, you know, no filter. If Elaine goes to try and get Blonsky to work for her, right? She obviously wants to get somebody who has like some sort of purpose for her or the Thunderbolts, right? And if you have someone like Emil who presumably is, oh, I'm not doing that anymore, I'm on parole, blah, 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 I don't think she would go near him, presumably, unless there was something for her to offer him to join the team, right? So what if Emil is got some sort of ulterior motives, it goes south, and then the redemption or the he's in a bit of a sticky pickle, and the only way to do so is to sign up with Elaine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could see
and there's
that
precedence for that because he chose to go back to prison as opposed to Wong offering him sanctuary at Comertage.
Yep.
He chose to go back to prison. So there's precedence for that kind of decision making for him.
Right. And so that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, that would actually be an interesting little undertone if they had that, like if you have that be like the side story where Emil is out free, and then as Jennifer Walters is dealing with all this craziness up above, underneath it, Emil is doing a bigger plot, and then it all culminates, and then I could see that happening. I actually wouldn't mind that at all. That'd actually be very refreshing.
Yeah, I definitely see him having an ulterior motive. I just don't know if it's good or bad because maybe he really is reformed. But at I mean, maybe it's not a bad thing though, because I mean, if you believe the dialogue from the first film or from the first episode, he's had this dialogue with Bruce for a long time, and Bruce has probably been the primary person that has helped him control the Abomination, since Bruce himself has learned how to control the Hulk.
Right.
So maybe he really is changed, and he is going to be kind of that unfortunate victim of whatever circumstance happens down the line in this series.
Well, we know we're not done with him. Even courtroom drawing aside, we know we're not done seeing him in the series because he shows up at least one more time from the trailer, from what we saw, unless they just cut that shot out with him doing the circle with Jen Walter. So we know that that's not going to be the last time we see him. But you're right. Whether or not it's good or bad, that's going to be the big question. But I mean, if it is a facade, right? If he's doing this all as a front for some other purpose, you have to think that obviously the government or SHIELD, whatever you want to call them, who is in charge of the raft and the prison they were holding Blonsky at, they know how to handle a good chunk of Avenger level issues. Hulk probably being one of them. I mean, look, SHIELD was somewhat prepared for the Hulk, right? In the first Avengers movie. Mm-hmm. So my point is that like, if he tried to pull any crap while he was in prison, most likely they would have been prepared and stopped him. He needs to be free and off of people's radar in order to, presumably, if he's doing something nefarious, he needs to be off of their radar and not be able to be stopped, which they can clearly do at this point. And if there's an inhibitor, if Bruce is the only one who's able to do it, he's not on World right now, is he?
Yeah, he's not. That's one of the plot hole things that a couple articles I read were talking about. Is he's supposed to be wearing this inhibitor, but the one that Bruce had was a prototype.
Yep.
And also, it's not just that was a prototype; it has to be specifically designed for one person. And right now, unless he has in between episodes popped back onto the Earth, is off-world. So how is this inhibitor going to come to be? Because I would imagine even as smart as Bruce is, it might take him a day or two to put it together. And that's a day or two of him being on Earth. He's decidedly not from what we saw in the second episode. So, I mean, how is all this going to work?
Also, quick note too, and this is something I completely forgot about. I read this online too. If Bruce is going back, not that it has anything to do with the relevance of this part of the conversation, but just in general, Sakaar, right? If he's going back to Sakaar, presumably from what we saw in the second episode, Sakaar time works different than Earth. So the next time we see Hulk, he could be radically different because time travel, time differentiation is much different. A couple of months on Earth versus, a couple of years. There's a huge time dilation difference between the two worlds. So who knows? But all good things to ponder. Also,
who do you think's after her blood?
So I originally thought it was Elaine, because if she can't have Abomination, right? Presumably, if she can't have Abomination, next best thing is to get the blood. If not, I would love to see it to be the leader. Those are really the only two people I could think of who would have any sort of major that we know of right now that could have any sort of major reason for wanting Hulk blood or Hulk-like blood, right? If Bruce isn't on Earth, then obviously she would be the next prime candidate to go after if you want that stuff. And so the only two people I could think of right now who could want it would be Valentina Fontaine or the leader. Those are the only two I could think of right now. Because really, we have Kang, right? We know we have Kang coming as the Thanos, but other than that, we don't really have too many other enemies that are being built up except for the Thunderbolts.
Yeah. I can't disagree with anything you just said there. I sometimes I feel like it's too easy though. Oh, I feel like it may. Could it be Xavier? I mean, we're getting there.
Oh shit! Yeah.
They dropped the M word. They dropped the word mutant finally in the last episode of Miss Marvel. There was that Easter egg that was in the last episode that we talked about the man with the claws in a bar.
That's actually not a bad idea either. Even if it's not Professor X, or it could be somebody that is tied to like a mutant genetic or a genetics thing. That there's always that possibility. But like, why would you hire the wrecking? Well, I mean, shit. We've seen stupider and weirder things in comics.
Yeah.
But
seen stupider and weirder things in the MCU.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, that could fit too. I'm just trying to think who else. Like
that's way outside the box. That's me kind of spitballing a bit.
It's not too far off though, because like you said, there are little bits here and there. Could be Blonsky.
Yeah. I mean, if he's managed to get word to somebody outside, and he does have some ulterior motive. Maybe he thinks getting a hold of her blood and injecting himself with it would make him even more powerful. If he does actually have some nefarious purpose,
right? So it could be Blonsky. I mean, but I think that like there's not going to be a laundry list of guesses, because I think that while I don't think it could be Professor X, I think it could be somebody who is a potential setup for mutant stuff. So I mean, it could be. Yeah, it could be any of those, to be honest with you. But I think those are four safe bets.
And who knows how many more might reveal themselves over the course of the next few episodes or the course of the rest of the series.
It's true.
I don't know. A lot to ponder. A whole lot to ponder, as you said. But that's pretty much the gist of episode 3. Again, it middled in spots for me. I was taking out a little bit too much of the Disney feminism that they like to put in there. But overall, funny, did not do a whole lot to me to push the story down the path. That's
right.
That was one of the biggest disappointments about this to me. Is it's again 9 episodes is not a lot. So you've got to kind of set a good brisk pace to how you're going to get through all this, and I don't think they quite did it with this episode. It's a little disappointing.
No,
I don't know. Any final thoughts from you on this as we get ready to leave?
So I've learned that when it comes to these, especially when it comes to the Marvel shows, that there's going to be lulls, and any show is going to be lulls, right? I'm hoping this is probably that lull moment, and that things kind of I'm not expecting a high octane pace every single week, or even like, I'm just hoping it goes in the right direction next episode, and then we get a little bit better of an overall arc. because like you said, this is kind of like we're gonna get any character development for She-Hulk. This is probably the only chance we're gonna get. We're gonna fucking get it. So like let's take advantage of it. So I'm kind of, but at the same time, I've also looked at like the Disney Plus shows, especially now that we're actually reviewing them on the Horny Goat like in full. I'll tell you, it's so much better to review them in a full batch than, it's trickier episode to episode. Because
especially if you don't know what's coming,
right?
It's so much of it is speculation.
And I've done that before with WandaVision, with Falcon and Winter Soldier, Moon Knight, where like I've observed and kind of had my critiques and reviews on it, but it's really tricky to do so, not seeing the bigger picture and not knowing where it's going, because it's almost like watching a third of a movie, Mm-hmm. And so it's like, well, this third of the movie sucked, but
in context with the rest of it, it might make more sense.
Right. So I'm kind of being a little, I'm kind of being restrained yet, because a lot of things could change. A lot of things can go in directions both up and down. And so I'm kind of holding out hope. I mean, I'm still enjoying the ride. Don't get me wrong. I'm Marvel live or die, clearly, but I'm holding out hope. I'm optimistic. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, like you said, there's still so much that we know is coming that we haven't seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if this next episode, as you say, you've heard is where it really hits the ground running and takes off from there, then that's that's 6 episodes of balls to the wall, because we still have to get Daredevil, and we still have to deal with Titania. So there's 2 people that we saw Titania for 3 minutes in the first episode, haven't seen Daredevil at all. We know they're out there.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to be part of it somehow. So in these next 6 episodes, they have to fold in somewhere. So I'm also starting to wonder if Daredevil maybe isn't a much smaller, doesn't have far less screen time than what we originally thought, because we've only seen him in that ending part of the one trailer that came out right before the series dropped. So
well, I mean, even if he takes a back seat, right? There's still a good chunk of stuff that we still are waiting on. And I'll be honest, the way that, if they're introducing Daredevil, if hear me out. Daredevil was introduced technically in the MCU in No Way Home, one of the biggest grossing movies Phase 4 has done at all. Mm-hmm. I argue, I think it's probably the biggest one. We know he's going to be in this show. We know he's going to be in Echo. We know he's going to be having his own Disney Plus show that one season is 18 goddamn episodes.
Makes me happy.
I'm not complaining, but my point is that just the schedule alone, we know he's going to be a massively pivotal part of the MCU going forward. So while could it be a brief little thing just to kind of introduce him? Yes, but I think even if it's very brief, it's going to have a major impact in a ripple effect going forward.
Yeah. Also, I mean, it takes place in a parking garage, that one little clip that we've seen of him. So obviously maybe somebody takes another shot at Jen Walters.
Plus we still have Frogman, don't forget. So
yeah, and he's the one that just happens to pop up and helps her out of a jam. Maybe whoever's trying to get her blood actually gets pretty close at that point and might have gotten it had he not popped in and helped her fight the people off.
Yep. Never know.
I don't know. Again, a lot of speculation, but I guess we're going to have to watch the next several weeks to figure out exactly if we're right or wrong. But thank you very much to my good friend Connor for coming on and breaking down episode 3 of She-Hulk. Where can the folks find you on the internet, sir?
Best place to find me is right over on my Twitters at Mr. Marvel 613, just like you see here on my screen right here. Also, a link for all my other stuff is in the description or in the link over there, like on YouTube, TikTok, all that fun stuff. So go check it out. Twitter's the best place to find me.
Go find him on Twitter. Also, go check out the Horny Goat. I'm pretty sure I have the link to the channel in the description now. So,
yep, youtube.com/hornygoat. Very easy.
So you guys can go find him. Also, Joe Compton was wondering how you're feeling after last night.
So for those who don't know, I had a pretty fun drinking party playing Drunk Monopoly. I'll be very honest with Joe. The headache lasted all effing day. I am getting cold for this. I went through a whole bottle of vodka and I just recovered 24 hours later. So I'm better now, but man, that struggle bus ran my ass over today.
Well, if you want to see Connor drink and play Monopoly and apparently a game of Uno that he has no idea even happened.
Yep.
He's like, I played Uno?
Yeah, what?
You can go check him out on the Horny Goat. They do all kinds of cool stuff. You guys are still doing the wrestling stuff, right? On WWE, the video game.
In fact, right after this, that's what we're going to go do right now.
Hell yeah, nice. And obviously, you guys are still doing the Marvel Roundtable, breaking down all the stuff. What are you guys working on right now?
So we just did Black Widow last week, which was a fun little romp. And then one of my personal favorites is next on the list, which is, ironically, as we're talking about Wong, Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is the next one that we're going to be reviewing on Monday. And then we're going to just keep going in terms of order of which they were released. So we're hoping that by the end of the year, we'll actually be caught up with everything, which is a scary thought because we started this project at the beginning of the year, which means we reviewed everything in the MCU in 1 year.
So it's a whole lot of stuff to go through.
Holy crap, yeah.
And it's only growing. But
yep.
As for me, you guys know where you can find me here on Thursdays, talking about all the stuff going on in the news, in the world of news and entertainment and television. Sundays over on Derailed, where both Connor and I will be duking it out, Battle Royale style, for the podcast Bedlam Championship.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I like Connor, as soon as I get a chance to throw him over the top rope, you're going, buddy. You're going.
Oh, fucker.
But that should be fun. So come join us over on Derailed on Sunday at 9 o'clock for all that craziness. I forget what number you are. I think I'm somewhere in the middle.
I think you're right after me, aren't you? I think I'm number.
I think one of us does come in right after the other.
I'm number 10. I think you're number 11.
That sounds like.
Or you're 9. It's one of the two. I can't remember. Like you're like right that. Before, right after me. So.
But that's going to be a whole lot of fun. So come join the fun. Yeah. Make sure you make big donations so Drew can get drunk and act like an ass.
as opposed to
when Drew's sober acting like an ass. And we will see you guys next Thursday for whatever happens. And of course, I'll probably be back here with Connor again for episode 4 of She-Hulk. Thank you guys very much for coming and hanging out for this late night stream. Go down in the comments below if you're watching us on replay. Let us know what you thought of the episode, what you think of the series so far. And we'll see you guys later on. Adios.